Honda is really struggling lately. Bad news just keeps coming. On March 12, Honda announced an estimated loss of 420 to 690 billion yen, roughly $4 to $6 billion. This is since Honda went public in 1957, their first ever annual net loss. On that same day, they also canceled their plans to develop and launch 3 EVs in North America. Soon after, S&P downgraded its long-term credit rating from A to BBB+. On March 25, Sony and Honda stated they are terminating all development and launch plans for the Afeela EV series under their mobility joint venture. At the end of April, Honda Korea announced its exit from the auto market, ending car sales after 23 years, keeping only their motorcycle business. Looking at this string of bad news, you really have to sweat for Honda. Welcome to Lotus Auto, understanding cars. Is Honda on the verge of collapse? Honda's dilemma is like most global brands. First, they were hit hard by Chinese brands. We've talked about this to death. Honda lacks competitiveness in smart tech, ADAS, and infotainment, causing sales to continuously dive. 2020 was Honda's sales peak in China, selling 1.62 million units a year. Back then, whether it was the Accord, Civic, or SUVs like the Car V and Breeze, they were all strong easily sellers, clearing 10,000 units a month. The best-selling Car V even sold 20 to 30,000 a month. But starting in 2021, Honda's China sales began a 5-year drop. 1.56 million, 1.37 million, 1.23, 0.85, and down to 640,000 in 2025, hitting new lows every single year. In March 2026, Honda sold only 36,200 units in China, a 34.34% drop year-over-year. This figure is already lower than many new Chinese EV brands. For example, Leap Motor delivered 50,000 and Li Auto delivered 41,000 in March. The former Japanese giant has now been caught and even surpassed. Affected by falling Chinese sales, Honda's global sales also dropped from 4.48 meters in 2021 down to 3.52 meters in 2025. What's more desperate for Honda is that Chinese cars are not only competitive, their production speed is insanely fast. Recently, Honda CEO Toshihiro Maebe took a special trip for an on-site inspection to study how Chinese automakers can launch a massive number of models in such a short time frame. He visited an auto parts supplier located in China's mighty supply chain firsthand. From parts sourcing to logistics, the entire factory was fully automated, while keeping labor costs low. They also ensured stable product quality. Maebe later said that against such strength, we simply have no chance of winning. Those were his exact words, completely unfiltered. As a legacy automaker, Honda obviously won't just sit and wait to die. They once ambitiously proposed that all new models launched in China after 2030 would be fully electrified. They also plan to invest 10 trillion yen, around $70 billion, into electrification, aiming to make a splash in the EV scene. They even set a goal to stop selling gas cars by 2040 and sell 2 million EVs globally annually by 2030. But in China, Honda's EVs can't beat Chinese automakers. First, they launched something called a Honda brand, exclusively for EVs in China. They released 2 models in total. P7 sold by GAC Honda and S7 sold by Dongfeng Honda. Not only do the cars lack standout features, but the character Yi splits into Fire and China. Fire China. Using this as a car brand name is both awkward and unlucky. It looks like they didn't do their homework when coming up with this name. I really should recommend they read the Lili book series. We've always used beautiful printing and humorous art to explain classic literature and popularize science. You can gain knowledge while laughing and harvest joy, whether for yourself or as a gift for kids. It's a fantastic choice. Click the shopping cart below to buy. Thanks for your support. Back to Honda. They also have a global pure EV sub-brand called E. E stands for energy and electric, and N stands for new and next. But in a non-English speaking country like China, this name is really hard to market. Plus, the model names are a disaster. For example, EN1 and NP1. When someone asks what car you rattle off a bunch of English letters, and most people will just respond with huh? And there's another really funny thing. If you search their car name in a browser, like EN1, the colon in the name gets recognized as a computer drive letter. It thinks you're looking for a local file, and then returns an error. Anyway, all these brands ended up tossed in a corner, completely ignored. In a recent report on Honda's website, Honda very honestly stated that they are unable to launch products with better cost performance than the new Chinese EV makers, ultimately leading to a decline in competitiveness. The report also noted that in the Chinese market, consumer focus has shifted away from traditional hardware specs like fuel economy, moving towards software and smart experiences, and Honda's layout in this area is severely lagging. Their self-awareness is spot on. But knowing the answer and still failing shows Honda is truly powerless to fix it. In the pure EV sector, Honda can't beat the swarm of Chinese automakers, but in the US, where EV competition is lower, Honda planned 3 core EV models: the 0 Series SUV, the 0 Series sedan, and an Acura EV, getting ready to arm wrestle Tesla. However, the US EV penetration rate isn't nearly as high as China's. Consumer acceptance of EVs is limited. More people still prefer gas cars and hybrids. Moreover, last year, the US stopped a specific EV subsidy. Originally, buying a new EV in the US could get you a $7,500 and buying used could get you $4,000. But this policy was announced terminated on Sept 30 last year. This directly caused EV demand in the US market to plummet. Honda's EVs, already struggling with sales, found themselves in an even tougher spot. Going by the principle of better short pain, Honda bit the bullet and halted production plans for these 3 cars. They took a massive one-time write-off, meaning all early investments went down the drain. Honda estimates this amount to be between 820 billion and 1.12 trillion yen. At current exchange rates, that's roughly $5 to $7 billion. This is the primary reason for Honda's massive fiscal year loss. So how will they play their cards moving forward? Here's Honda's plan. They won't obsess over pure EVs in the US anymore. They will ramp up hybrid investments. Currently, the US is Honda's largest single market, with 1.43 million cars sold last year. They need to solidify this advantage. As for growth, Honda is pinning its main hopes on India. They aim to expand by releasing more products in the Indian market. They didn't mention China, likely out of ideas. Just totally skipped it. Ironically, just Honda actually imported a batch of EVs from China to sell in Japan. This imported EV is called the Insight. Its prototype is the 2024 a pure EV manufactured by Dongfeng Honda. This marks the first time in Japanese history EVs are imported from China, breaking the Japanese automaker's domestic first supply. To adapt to the Japanese market, Honda made a series of adjustments to the car, including moving the steering wheel and switching the charging port to Japanese standards. Honda will also observe how Japanese consumers accept China-made models. If the market response is positive, they may consider expanding import scales in the future, or even introduce more China-made models into the Japanese market. Just 5 years ago, who could have imagined that Chinese cars would not only overtake on the curve, but drive straight to their front doors? It really makes you sigh with emotion. Alright, that's it for today's episode. If you found this valuable, please follow me and share it. Moving forward, I'll share more car buying knowledge to help you become the car guru in your friend circle.